Today we are joined by Stewart Vickers, aka SEO Jesus.
I was number 2 in the US for best shaving brush for a very long time. And that's when I got it all figured out. Like, how on earth did I get to where I am today? It's literally compounding on compounding on compounding.
We say the hardest part about running the agency is the client interaction, not the actual client work itself.
Ranking an actual business is so much easier than ranking your own website because you've already got all that trust and authority built in. But lots of people don't do it well.
Let's kind of get into this idea of a one-page website and how you're doing it.
The whole point of one-page websites is these work because you're aligning with that search intent.
Did the HCU also have an impact on how you'd spend your time in affiliate marketing?
I think I was initially okay, but then over time we had a few more updates and steadily more and more sites got killed.
Which has been more successful? Directly interacting, some of the pay-per-call networks?
I get that paycheck every month for the next 8 years.
Tell us about the SaaS you acquired.
But a lot of people are building SaaSes that should probably never be built in the first place.
How do you stand out? How do you get in front of people? How do you establish a relationship?
So I'd say number one recommendation is...
All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we are joined by Stewart Vickers, aka SEO Jesus. Stewart, welcome on board.
Thank you very much.
Hey, it's good to have you. You and I met up in person, I don't know, a year or 2 years ago, year and a half ago, talked about this. You know, hey, what can I say? You're a busy guy. It took a year and a half for us to actually get you on the podcast here.
I know the feeling, yes.
Hey, so I heard your presentation at that conference we were at, and I was really impressed. You obviously are an extremely talented SEO. We're going to be talking all about some stuff that you were doing pre-HCU and probably the bulk of today's conversation post-HCU. I can't wait to hear from you what you're seeing working and whatnot. Maybe give us, though, before we get into it, give us an introduction on yourself, what you were doing before you were doing SEO, and maybe some of your timeline.
Yes, I always wanted to be a writer of some sort, and then I ended up doing a history of art degree in London. Loved London life. Didn't really have a whole lot of contact time. I had to be in lectures 2 hours a week. Meanwhile, I was living in central London, having a great time, which of course is expensive. So I was trying to find how I could monetize my extra hours some more. And there's actually a creative jobs job board that I kept on trawling. And I found out about this menswear blogging role. And normally I've got a massive beard, so you wouldn't have thought it, but I am quite into menswear. The handlebar moustache is probably a bit more befitting now. And they just wanted this blogger. So I was talking about men's overcoats, men's accessories, and they were a men's accessories brand. And they basically said, if you can use the word overcoat 5 times in this article, then we can rank on Google and we can sell some of our handkerchiefs. And so suddenly my world changed, that this sort of dream job of being the writer, basically, that everyone says, you can't make money out of that. Turns out there's this whole world of digital marketing that is dependent on writing, or at least used to be pre-ChatGPT. And so went with that, and then from that got a few other writing roles, sort of online journalism, lots of sort of viral Facebook stuff, did my own website for a bit, heard about affiliate marketing, and was still taking this very social media driven approach of let's write a news article, put that on Facebook, put it into Facebook groups, and then try and siphon off some of that traffic into the affiliate products, which doesn't really work very well. And your traffic burns out after 48 hours or so. So you're on this constant content treadmill. That was until probably about 6 months later, I started making all these commissions, and I had a look, and they were all on Fortnite costumes. And this was when Fortnite was massive. I think it still is. And it turned out at some point, I'd seen this press release that one of the major Halloween costume providers was doing a line of Fortnite Halloween costumes. So I said, here's how you do your Fortnite cosplay. And I'm into all these dressing up communities, whether it's vintage, goth, steampunk. So this was basically a blog, online magazine for those communities.
Hey everyone, this episode is sponsored by Mailtrap, an email delivery platform designed for product companies. You can go to them for high deliverability, growth-focused features, and industry-best analytics. And you can get 20% off all their plans just by using our promo code Niche Pursuits. Again, that promo code is Niche Pursuits, all one word. Check the details in the description below. Okay, now back to the episode.
So I'd written this tiny 500-word article on Fortnite cosplay, and I now checked 6 months later, it was number 1 for Fortnite cosplay. And again, my world changed, where suddenly it wasn't about write what you think is interesting, post it in Facebook groups, try and get that traffic into an offer of some sort, you just write what people are already searching for, especially if it's a product they're searching for. And now, obviously, because it was too little too late, so that website didn't really work. So I got a job at an insurance startup, basically as their main marketing person. It was a very small company. But I was commuting into the office every day, literally binging the Authority Hacker podcast and Niche Pursuits to an extent, Empire Flippers, that whole community, just ingesting, absorbing everything over time. And so that's basically how I learned. So then I started creating new websites, and they were much more effective because I actually knew what I was doing. So eventually I did one all about traditional shaving. So shaving brushes, shaving soap, safety razors, straight razors. And that did great. I was number 2 in the US for best shaving brush for a very long time. And that's when I got it all figured out. Meanwhile, the insurance world wasn't going so well. They were spending 10 grand a month on paid ads, very high cost per click for home insurance, all these. And I said, my little hobby blog is doing really well. We can do the same thing for you if you want. And I didn't really understand it, couldn't work out how blogging turns into serious website insurance sales. But eventually they relented and they said, let's try it. And obviously we're on Niche Pursuits podcast. I found some really good niches, proper long tail insurance products. Again, not necessarily long tail keywords, long tail products, where home insurance, really big, really competitive. But I always talk about war dogs. You don't want the pie, you just want the crumbs. Go and find those little niches that the big insurers don't care about. But you as a small broker, you'll get on the phone and work out this slightly more unusual situation for them. And from then, literally within 2 weeks, the phone started ringing. And we were selling these weird little insurance policies all over the place. So that insurance brokerage then rocketed up to 50 grand a month just through these probably about 3 organic blog posts that I wrote. And this is in the pandemic. So I literally just got on and started grinding out all this content, targeting all these different niches. With that, then got headhunted to a much bigger insurance company. Got a little frustrated in the corporate machine. I was just the website guy. Meanwhile, they had 2 SEO agencies working for them. And I've been thinking, I can't possibly start an SEO agency. I'm not that skilled. I'm not up there with a big London office and so on. And then I saw what these SEO agencies with the big London office were actually doing. One of them wasn't even building links. They just did a bit of content. And the other one, again, I think we got maybe 3 backlinks a month. And meanwhile, on the side, I was just emailing the backlink providers and realizing, these are $50 links that we're paying, $600 for, something like that. And tried to escalate this higher up the chain, saying, give it to me, I'll do it better, cheaper, faster. And you just get this sort of the weary shrug of, well, the board has signed up on it. There's this whole corporate process we've been through. We've got a contract for 6 months, whatever. So there's not a lot we can do about it, unfortunately. So I thought, okay, I think I'm going to quit and start an SEO agency.
I love this. I think you touched on almost everything that is in the buildup to kind of this whole niche pursuits idea, right? Like, you started off thinking your goal was being a writer. Your eyes got open in terms of what writing, and again, writing has changed a lot since then. Obviously, even this is pre AI. But then you also, developed and stumbled upon your own affiliate sales, developed your own blogs, started doing SEO for client, then had the full epiphany of, hey, if I can do it for a client, then I can do it on my own. And now you run an SEO agency. Tell us what you're doing today. Like, what does today look like? And then we'll kind of rewind a bit and hear what some of the things that are working right now are.
What don't I do?
Yeah, we were talking about it before we hit record. It's like staying focused on stuff.
Oh, so I've not improved that in a year then, right? Yeah, I drink a lot of coffee and don't really sleep enough. And no, it's exactly what you said. If I look back and think, how on earth did I get to where I am today? It's literally compounding on compounding on compounding. So lately, a lot of my focus is actually on agency coaching. That's because I've been through the weeds and built an agency, which I was only able to do because I messed around playing with SEO and websites, which I only did because I was playing around with blogging and all these little micro steps that ended up compounding to bigger and bigger wins over time. So a lot of my YouTube audience is always, how do I get started now? It's like, well, the answer is you kind of just need to do a bit of everything and stumble across stuff that's ultimately going to snowball into something bigger. But to actually answer your question, what am I doing right now? I'd say it's a pretty 50-50 split between the courses and the agency. There's a little bit of SaaS in there as well. There's a standard sort of entrepreneurial pyramid that people talk about. I've seen multiple people talk about it. I know Alex Becker is quite big on it. That agencies are a fantastic place to start. I got it the wrong way around. I thought I've got to prove myself with 5 years of affiliate marketing before I deem myself good enough to start an agency. Whereas the reality is, ranking an actual business is so much easier than ranking your own website because you've already got all that trust and authority built
Right.
in.
Right.
And for you, you've got upfront cash flow. So rather than trying to get your little hobby blog to its first $100 a month, $500 a month, and crawling your way up, you can just take $3,000 from the customer upfront, and they're happy because depending on the business, they probably only need one customer to make that worthwhile. So that's what I should have done all along. But there's this pyramid. Agencies are a great place to start. You get the cash flow up front. You can then go and hire good staff. You've got the simple SOP of deliverables, and it's just good monthly recurring revenue. Now, if you do it well, you can have quite a good margin, but lots of people don't do it well. And so it literally feels like you're taking that $3,000 a month, and then you're paying your contractors, you're paying, some of us pay for links, on all the other deliverables you've got to fulfill. Our software costs more than $1,000 a month. So even though your revenue looks great, what you're actually coming out with at the end of it can be pretty poor. So it's quite normal for people to sort of trade up the food chain. First step is basically productizing more. And as part of that, you might well go into digital and info products. And that's where obviously the course community's got quite a bad rep. But the fact is you can go much lower ticket and much higher margin. So I only started doing this last year, but these days I'm doing a lot more courses because most people, not many people have got $3,000 to pay me to rank their website for them, but they've pretty much all got $100, $200 to learn a new skill. And that's basically 80, 90, maybe even 100% margin. So it's less money, but it's more profit up front. And you get into this amazing world where it's all about the funnel, it's all about pricing. You can basically offer a refund guarantee because you have no costs. So you can basically say, if it doesn't work for you or you don't like it for whatever reason, email us within 30 days and we'll give you a free refund. And the reality is your refund rate never goes above 5%. But your sales, because of that guarantee, can go up 10 times. So yeah, it's twofold basically. So I've got the agency that's my bread and butter still, but then I've got this course business growing on the side, which is smaller money but more margin. And that's exactly why I started getting into SaaS as well. Basically taking some of those profits, reinvesting them into acquiring a SaaS product, which I then got all my funnels, all my audience, and I can then basically take the SaaS that's functionally complete. It just needs growth and marketing. I can provide that growth and marketing.
I
And
remember
of course,
seeing I remember seeing when you bought that SaaS. I don't remember when it was, but I remember seeing you share about that. I want to ask you about that because I think that's really fascinating to hear how people listening might be able to take some of the chops they have, whether it's an SEO or online marketing or
well,
broader marketing, and apply it to a business that you acquire and actually just basically replicate your skill sets, but now do it for another profit creating engine.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you then about how the helpful content update had an impact on what you were doing. I mean, you took us through your history, so I don't want to, I don't want to repeat everything, but you talked about what you were doing during COVID. You talked about where you've evolved to. Like, how has the HCU changed any of the things that you're focused on now? And I know that you basically just shared, hey, I'm into agencies, I'm into course, I'm a little bit into SaaS. I didn't hear affiliate marketing. So did the HCU also have an impact on how you'd spend your time in affiliate marketing?
Oh, totally. I think, many of us look back at that golden era we had where anyone could just start a decent authority site. And, fish tanks is always the amusing example. And I need to be careful not to out anyone's niches here, but you know what I mean? It's the weird and the wonderful, the more niche, the better. And, you just write 200 pages of content all about this particular product. And plenty of those people are doing 30, 40, 50 grand a month. So I was playing around with that a lot. But it was in 2022 that the big sort of pivot came where I thought I've got these affiliate sites that are doing okay. And I just got into link building for them and then realized just how valuable these backlinks are, the kinds of margins you can get. So I thought, okay, I've already got my team building links for my websites. Let's get a few clients to start to build cash flow. So that's exactly how the agency started. And so that was 2022 when I actually quit the day job. So, and I persisted trying to build the authority sites. again, because no one really wants to do clients forever. You still want your fish tank website or whatever other niche you're in. At the time, I was working on a spirituality site. And around that period, I was trying to start a new one every month. So I did dental for invisible braces. I did spirituality. And each of those, I wanted to try and trade up the food chain and basically bolt on my own products, my own info products on the back end. Yeah, all sorts of wonderful ideas. But even before HCU, I was spread too thin.
Right.
And you just compare the sort of upfront cash flow of here's a client who's getting great results. You're not even that focused on them. You're just building the links, correcting the content, doing the basics, and they're getting massive results for it. And they're paying you $3,000 a month versus your authority site is kind of up, is kind of down. There's a lot of moving parts involved with that. And yeah, one update it goes up, one update it comes down. So then when HCU came along, I think I was initially okay, but then over time we had a few more updates and steadily more and more sites got killed. I think the biggest pivot was just amongst the client base that loads of agency owners have said the same thing, that we used to serve loads of these authority site owners and comparison sites. There were lots of content-based websites that were absolutely legitimate businesses, and yet they all got destroyed as well. Now, as an agency, you survive because e-com's doing great, service businesses are doing great, plenty of ways you can go. And it's just so unfortunate that Google's had such a problem with the content site model, because many of us loved those websites and enjoyed working with those people. So there was definitely a despondence there. I think plenty of times over the last few years, I've sort of fallen out with SEO, not even because it's dead or anything like that. Just the fact that we had this beautiful era where you could build those content sites, and now it doesn't work anymore. So the alternative I did find, which I think you had the bare bones of it in my talk in York, but I continued working on that. This idea of, can you get an exact match domain for a service and then put basic content on it, work out those that actually rank and perform, and then double down on those winners? That then became my one-page website method, which is one of these courses that I sell. That's been really quite exciting because it is an actual repeatable process that works. It does take a bit more work though, because you are actually having to go out and work with business owners. And that's actually the toughest point. Ranking the site is easy. These sites rank often in hours, sometimes days. But then you've got to get into the whole world of actually understanding the service you're offering, understanding, talking to the business owners, how you get them on board, how you maintain that relationship. So there's still plenty of opportunities out there for just building a website. It's just unfortunate it's not as easy as just signing up to an affiliate network anymore and then pumping out content.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that because it's similar to running an agency. The hardest part, most would say, I'm being stereotypical here, by the way, but I think a lot of people, certainly people that are proficient in SEO, proficient in online marketing, they would say the hardest part about running the agency is the client interaction, not the actual client work itself. And so, let me ask you about the one-page website framework, because you're right. That's what you did talk about a bit in York. You spoke in the late afternoon, which was great because the conference started at around like 9 a.m., which for my time is about 1 a.m. So I was a little foggy on those first few presentations. I remember Jason Mills gave a great one, but I just had a cup of coffee and that was about it. But you hit in the afternoon, man. I was hitting my morning groove right about that time. And I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed the things you talked about. Can you dive a bit into this idea of exact match domains, matching them up with keywords, how you pivot that towards a business? A lot of people maybe are familiar with EMDs, but more so from a standard affiliate play. Like, let's kind of get into this idea of a one-page website and how you're doing it.
Yeah, so it's all about search intent. So people come to me worrying about AI overviews and all these challenges we've got in the industry. But an AI overview cannot fix your roof for you. An AI overview cannot give you a dental implant. So what we're essentially doing is just aligning with search intent, which is the same thing we've always done. Even when you had your affiliate site, you can bet that if you actually did an analysis of all your content, the majority of your sales are probably coming from the product-based keywords, not from that extreme long tail question, answer, whatever.
Top of the funnel stuff. Yeah.
When I was working for that insurance company, we ticked off all this bottom of the funnel stuff, and that worked great. But they didn't want to build links. They could see how the blogging had worked, and they thought, well, let's just do 10 times more of that. And I'm saying there aren't any more keywords. And they wanted to crack pet insurance. Now, pet insurance in the UK doesn't have all these niches. It's basically got cat insurance, dog insurance, multiple pets, and pet insurance. that's kind of it. And they're all really competitive. So I said, you need to build links. But again, we don't want to do it. Okay, in that case, the best thing we can do is just publish everything we can for pet owners and just get them into the funnel. So we wrote hundreds of articles about, can dogs eat this? Can cats do that? Huge traffic, massive Ahrefs spike. None of it converted. So you can look at the Ahrefs graph and you can see this tiny bump we had at the beginning and then this massive spike in the traffic later on. But none of that traffic was actually delivering anything. So the whole point of one-page websites is these work because you're aligning with that search intent. So I read a book on domain investing a few years ago, and it was basically saying it was a very manual process. Go through and find contractor in city, and register the domain, and then do outbound cold email to try and flip that $10 domain for $300. And I thought, I love the model, but it's a bit of a lame way of doing it one by one. I can just go into Ahrefs, put in this filter, that filter, scrape the whole list, go into a online space remover tool and just take out all the spaces, go to name.com/names, which is a bulk domain checker. There's a few others available. Put in that whole list of keywords, and I can just see that one's $2,000, that one's $3,000, this one untouched, $10. I'll grab that one. And I'll go through and just grab all the $10 ones. And I was about to set up my cold email system and start doing outbound, and then thought, wait, why would I sell these? If my skill's in SEO, why am I giving all the upside to someone else to properly screw up? I could turn these valuable domains into even more valuable websites. And I'm looking at the CPCs on some of them, and we're talking $50 per click in some case. So I thought, I'll hold on to them, actually turn them into websites. And of course, the year goes by, and I have done nothing. And they've got this big domain renewal bill coming in. We all know the feeling, that project's that side hustle that you never quite got off the ground. But then ChatGPT comes out. So I say to my team, go through all these domains. I want an optimized page of content on each of them. And that way, when I forget, when I leave it another 6 months, another 12 months, at least then when I come back, I'm going to realize there's actual ranking websites here. Because very often what you'll find is time is a massive ranking factor. So you really can put content on the domain, get it indexed. Some of those domains will rank within 6 months to a year without doing anything else. And once you've found those winners, then whatever you do after that, whatever link building, anything else, it's all going to work so much better. Because I think we all know the feeling. You start this one passion project site and you start throwing everything at it and it's just not responding. Whereas, some of these, that one won't do anything, but this one, it's starting to get some rankings. Okay, we're going to do citations, we're going to do a press release. Okay, now it's on page 1.
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, Google just massively prefers certain domains. So this is the kind, now that we've got these AI tools, this is how you can widen your net and try and identify those 20% of sites that rank barely doing anything. When it actually came to recording the course, I had the bare bones of this strategy when I gave that talk, but it took me more until October, November before I really had the process nailed down in terms of what you invest at what point, because you really want some of these to actually be on page 2 or page 1 before you start investing in them. And if you've registered 10 or 20 domains, that's absolutely achievable. So when I was recording the course, I thought, let's push it. Let's do injury law. And I registered about 15 injury law domains. And same again, some of them rocketing up to page 1. One of them has been in the top 3 for probably about 6 months now. And then I checked the other week, it was up to position 1. And this site I've not invested more than a couple of $100s on. And yet the traffic value, because that CPC is so high, so the Ahrefs estimate of what the paid ads would cost to get that traffic is something like $15,000 a month.
So a number of things I want to ask you about. First off, how important is it that you do 10, 20, 30 of these? You said that you did a bunch of them and some of them have worked out. Because you hear a lot of people will say like, oh, I listened to this podcast and I tried it and it didn't work. And oftentimes one of the differences is that what you just said, like I did it for 30 domains and X of those worked versus someone who just does one. You're putting all your eggs in one basket when really this is an idea of spreading that around because some will work and some will work. How important is it to spread that around? How many do you think you need to do at a bare minimum?
It's always a trade-off because you absolutely can get lucky with your first few. And also if you're putting more resources into those first few, then you probably are a lot more likely to succeed. But in my case, I was all about absolute minimum? What is the minimum viable effort we can make? So therefore, if we take 10, 20, then yeah, a handful of those, even without doing any of the extra work, just content on the domain, optimized content with Surfer, then that will rank. And if it's up to page 2, great, we'll now put $100 on it. But equally, if you only had 5, maybe if you put $200 in it, did those citations, a press release early on, then you're much more likely to succeed. So it's always a balancing act. It really depends on where you're currently at. And as you say, there's always that fear when someone buys a course, and especially if they come to you saying, I've just quit my day job, I am entirely dependent on this working
Oh
out.
gosh,
And that's always,
don't do
a
that.
weight of responsibility. That's very scary. But number one, what we recommend is do the outbound pitching to local contractors before you start off. Because you need to do the niche research. Like I say, ranking the site is not the hard bit. As long as if you do what I say, follow those steps, then you can rank a site. It's not a problem. The challenging bit is getting the deals, because when you actually contact these businesses, that's when you'll find out there's a whole load of problems you never even know about.
Yep.
And that keyword you found that you thought was really low competition, turns out it's low competition for a reason. So you want to get talking to the business owners early on. So in the course, I gave an example where I was pitching loft conversions or attic conversions. And I spoke to a contractor and he said, there's no money in that for us. It's low margin, it's competitive. We just want extensions. So we'll give you a much bigger commission for extensions than for loft conversions. Oh, great. Okay, I was never going to read that in a blog post. I can only get that from talking to the business owners. But the other thing we recommend in the course is basically a diversification angle, that once you rank that site, this is my problem as a YouTuber. So on YouTube, the content that performs is how to make 3 to 5 grand a month, your job replacement income, without actually doing any work. It needs to be passive income. It needs to be easy. That's the content that gets the traffic. Unfortunately, and yeah, it can happen, but I think what you realize when you actually do that is 3 to 5 grand a month is not a lot of money. Just talk to all the affiliate bloggers who lost their income in HCU, where, yeah, maybe they'd replace their day job income, but that gets wiped out overnight. And now what? So pretty
Yep.
much every business I start today, I need a short-term mindset, basically, that this niche could, even SEO agencies, this could potentially blow up within the next 5 years. I need to be able to get in, make my money, and get out again, and be able to basically live off the interest in case whatever I'm working on at the moment is completely different in 10 years' time. Yeah, don't forget, the brain is much better at learning and adapting when it's young, and as you go on, it gets harder to pick up these new skills. So if you're going to be, the new AI consultant, then do that now and maximize it so that you don't have to be testing Claude versus ChatGPT versus Gemini every day in 10 years' time. So anyway, the diversification we recommend, if you're able to rank one of these sites and talk to business owners, you've then got a really good case study. My injury law example is a perfect example of that. Injury law is one of the biggest niches in SEO. You're immediately ahead of all those tire kickers who are all cold emailing you every day saying, dear sir, I'll say you a guest post, I'll guarantee page 1. A lot of business owners hate us because they're getting spammed all day long by these SEOs with no brand and no trust. Whereas as soon as you come along, you've actually ranked a website, they're in their niche, in their location, then the whole game changes completely. So those are people ask me about Google Business Profiles, saying, don't I need to rank on local maps in order to do this kind of rank and rent style model? And I'm saying, do not touch the map pack. Google Business Profile verification is so difficult now. You might get away with it, but it's pretty tough. It's not repeatable. But if you do actually form a partnership, if you get that local roofer, that extension builder, if you get them on board and they have a true Google Business verified profile, then things get much more interesting. So you could work on their profile on a commission basis, just like the website you've already done, or you've already got this dialogue going with them. You've won their trust with your one-page website. So maybe just say, while we're at it, we'll maintain and rank your Google Business Profile to say $500 to $1,000 a month. You can make it a no-brainer. And again, that's just a simple SOP in terms of complete the profile, do the citations, respond to reviews. You can use a tool like Localo. They've got a one-click AI reply to all the reviews. Most business owners are not responding to their reviews, and that's a ranking factor. And then you can even use these off-page tools like Agency Assassin that sends driving directions, and SEO Neo for building lots of the basic co-citations, that name, address, and phone number. So you can have this tech stack and a VA basically, where even though you're only charging $500 to $1,000 per month to rank them on local maps, your margin from that is actually pretty decent and it's not a whole lot of work for you. So one-page websites are great. You absolutely can build this decent semi-passive income stream from them. But I would say go further, leverage that to actually then go and build a 10, 20 grand a month, dare I say it, actual business. Because I keep telling everyone active income is better than passive income. Because I've made this mistake before. You're always chasing the latest shiny hack. And the fact is it never ends. You're always chasing next one, next one, next one. You probably have made a few $1,000s a month from each one. But if you just did something scalable from the beginning, even if you had to work a bit harder for it, then you can basically get the couple of million in the bank, put that into index funds, S&P 500, and then in 5 years' time, you don't need to work at all. So that's everything I'm about right now.
Let me ask you a few questions about the outreach part, just because we have this podcast has so much on ranking. Even this style model, like I'll try to include in the show notes. Maybe we've done an interview in the past on the rank and rent idea as well. And there's some similarities here to that, but the outreach part, because you're right. Like you can rank that website for, injury law number one, but if you can't get someone to buy those leads, if you can't figure out how to have someone take advantage of those leads, you're not going to really get paid much. And as you mentioned already, that was the first thing that came to my mind. These injury attorneys, for example, are used to getting spammy style emails from outreach people every day, all day. So, what are some outreach techniques or tips you have that allow you to, assuming you've got now a decent lead, a decent one-page website that's creating some leads, how do you stand out? How do you get in front of people? How do you establish a relationship where someone is going to end up buying those?
So I'd say number one recommendation is just pick up the phone. And it's the bit we're all worst at. And one of the biggest learnings in the agency in the last year or two has just been in terms of, as we said before, everything that's customer facing. So improving your actual sales process, having an actual sales closer on board, and having proper account managers who are constantly looking after and contacting your clients to make sure that they're happy. And that's all the stuff that we in SEO just forget. And it's probably the most important bit. So with the one-page side, you want your cold email to really make this a no-brainer and say this is literally commission-only basis, no fee upfront. We'd just like a call to walk you through it. And again, it's kind of a discovery process. So you basically want to talk them through it. And the great thing about this is you hold a lot of leverage. You're basically saying, I am going into this niche. I am going to rank this page. And therefore, I'm not worried. If you're not interested, that's fine. I'll go and talk to your competitors. Maybe not say that outright, but that can be your sort of implicit pitch. And you really need to keep the boundaries there, because what you do find is that if you get the wrong leads, they will start treating you like a client, basically, that you might have that call and you'll say, okay, I'm going to go away and rank the site now, but it's still going to take a while before the leads start coming through. In which case I've had this before. They start calling you up and you're saying, it's been 2 weeks since we've spoken and we've not heard anything. We're going to have to look for someone else if something doesn't change. I mean, well, hang on here. You have paid me nothing. I said it's a commission-only basis. Nothing's going to happen for a couple of months. So you need to hold that boundary and make sure they understand how the relationship works. And you've always got that fallback. If you're not happy, that's fine. You don't get any more leads and you don't need to pay me anything, because I'm going to go to this guy and do the same deal again. So no-brainer cold email. You need to try and get through all that skepticism. Commission only. It's only exploratory at this stage. Ideally, hopefully you've got a bit of background in terms of ranking sites. In my case, it's quite easy saying, I've had this successful SEO agency. I should be charging $5,000 a month for this, but I'm tired of doing that. I only want to work commission only now. So that's quite a good pitch. But then it really is get them on the phone and actually talk to them, because that immediately separates you from everyone else who's just got a cold email spam machine going around the clock. And when you have that conversation, it's just touch points. It's natural trust. They can hear you. They can express their concerns and hesitations. And very quickly, you'll work out, what are those objections? How can you bridge that gap and overcome them? Now, the other thing to mention, actually, is there are pay-per-call networks out there as well. So even if you find it hard work talking to all these potential partners, generally, it doesn't take many. The close rate was actually quite high, because ultimately you say, sure, let's try it. We'll review in a few months because it's not costing us anything. There's always that revelation of, no matter how many times you say it, they still go, oh, so it's commission only, I don't pay anything. Yes, we've told you that multiple times. And so ultimately they will try it. But you do have that fallback. There are these pay-per-call networks out there where they've already done all that work and they'll just basically buy every lead you can provide.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that. In your experience, which has been more successful, directly interacting with the agency or with the company, sorry, or some of the pay per call networks?
I'd say the direct. And the way I see it basically is you kind of got this 80-20 thing going on where a couple of your sites, they'll be doing great, they'll be doing really well. You own that traffic, you have leverage, and you can literally talk to a contractor and say, I'm getting this much traffic a month, or I've got a form on there that's receiving all these leads that I can't do anything with. Let's set up a partnership. Then that's a lot more interesting. Whereas a lot of the time with the pay-per-call networks, the general vibe I get is they're a bit slow. They're not too proactive because, yeah, they're going to have media buyers on there who are spending thousands a day generating calls. So you come along with your little website and there can be a lot of hoops to actually jump through. So what I generally recommend is try and get the pay-per-call network so you can take all your mediocre results, and then if they rank, then great, put them all on the pay-per-call network. But yeah, when you've got a real outlier that's taking off, and that does tend to be how it is, you'll have a couple that just totally take off, then yeah, you want to own that traffic and yeah, really make sure you're getting maximum value per lead there.
Let me ask you how much of like as we look back at your business in general, as your at your agency, how much is this strategy a part of it, and how much is it still to the same degree monthly services for clients who aren't on a commission basis but are on a retainer model or are paying you in a productized model?
So it's still mostly monthly retainers just because we work with a lot of different businesses. I've got my YouTube brand, I've got my Facebook ad funnel. And so the main focus for me for the one-page websites has actually been, again, the insurance world, because that's my background. So we are building out a network of sites. And that's like my, how can I put it, long-term, almost anti-AI precaution, where basically on the face of it, yeah, upfront cash flow from the agency just beats everything. Then I've got the courses as well, not as much cash flow, but much more profit. So all that is great. But again, all that could potentially blow up. I don't think it will, but there's a higher risk that that won't exist in 5 years' time. Whereas my sort of bet, one-page websites works extremely well in my insurance niche. And yeah, once you've got one broker who's willing to work with you, then you can fulfill. It's just like how I started. All these weird and wonderful niches, they can fulfill those. Now, it's my sort of personal bet that certainly in the UK, banking, finance, insurance, they are way behind the times in terms of
Right.
technological adoption.
Yep.
So therefore, I think for all the AI hype, all the AI fears, I think that's probably the world that's going to be touched last. So overall, it's smaller money because especially in insurance, the broker gets a percentage, I get a percentage of that percentage. Insurers, yeah, on the face of it, they make a lot of money, but actually they're taking this money up front and then paying it out in claims. So they don't actually retain a whole lot of it. So for that reason, it's kind of a percent of a percent of a percent. But my most successful one-page website, that was a particular kind of insurance. The average retention of those clients was 8 years. So I found the broker and they came back and they said, in that particular niche, we'll pay you this commission for the client, but it's a lifetime commission. You're therefore getting a paycheck for the next 8 years. Now, at the time, the site was sort of bottom of page one, midway on page one, that eventually went up to number one. And I'm looking at the paychecks and yeah, it's nothing compared to successful agency revenue. But there's a certain safety there in knowing I
Oh
get
yeah.
that paycheck every month for the next 8 years.
And let's be honest,
So,
that feels so good.
yeah. And yeah, it's tough. It's all about leverage. I think what people really need to understand, especially in this community, is it's basically time to revenue, time to profit. At the time when I started my agency, I was still working on that spirituality website and my dental website. And you can go hell for leather on this site waiting for it to work, seeing yeah, the big eye on the prize down the line. But it's so much better when you can just pick up the phone and get a few clients and get paid 5 grand tomorrow. Or in my case, I got my brand, my YouTube channel, my email list. I can launch a course tomorrow and do very decent profit from that. So ultimately, you can't do everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, in my case, I got it's a bit like the SaaS thing. SaaS is again great margin and the multiples on exit, things like that. but ultimately you're actually still working quite small amounts of money when it's $20, $30 a month. Whereas my big priorities right now is I've got my agency, and then kind of on the course business side, we've got an agency course coming up that's going to be quite low ticket and it's just a self-serve video course. But then we're going to have a group coaching program on top of that as an upsell. And that's going to be more like $5,000 up front. Because if you're a serious agency owner looking to scale, you can make that back with one client. So if in that whole program, you only get one takeaway from it that gets you one client or upsells one of your other clients, then that more than pays for that $5,000 fee.
Mm-hmm.
So these days, I'm actually really strict thinking about leverage in terms of, time to money. What makes me the most money in the shortest amount of time? And just really got to try and ignore those shiny objects, which I'm not actually very good at.
Well, you are in good company here because in many ways, this podcast is about that, but not just about that. It's a good segue. So let me ask you about running an SEO agency because, on paper, it's like, hey, I know how to do SEO. I should go run an agency if and when my side projects are not satisfying as much as what I want. Or, hey, I've been doing my side projects and doing pretty well with them. If I did an agency, I wouldn't have to work this full time job. I could move from side hustle projects into full time. So, like, you've come from a background of starting off teaching yourself. You've come from a background of side projects. You come from a background that might be very synonymous with a lot of our listeners. You now run an agency. What are the biggest challenges in running an agency? What are the biggest problems that you see people make or mistakes that you see people make if they're coming from the background as a practitioner and into running an agency?
So it was entirely the human side. And especially when it comes to basically screening and qualification. So where do I even start with this? My first few clients, they all came from in-person networking. So one of them I'd worked with before. Another one that came through a sort of business network I was in. People in my day job joked that I was quitting the day job to become a digital nomad. And I'm saying, no, I really like London. I'm staying here. 2 weeks later, I end up flying to Colombia for a business mastermind. And from that was about 20 to 30 high ticket coaches. From that, I got a client. And I thought, great, I can basically fly to a nice country, learn a lot, have a bit of a party, meet some great entrepreneurs, and come away with clients. Great. And so I basically traveled nonstop for about a year doing that. And again, very high trust, very high touch points. So I was spending a lot of time with people. Then 6 months later, we'd have the sales call after a lot of trust and nurturing, and they come on board, and it was all great. But as soon as I started really scaling, as soon as I was getting on YouTube and doing all that, getting all these clients coming on board and had an account manager in place, team leader, and suddenly it wasn't me customer facing the whole time. Churn suddenly goes through the roof because you basically got people who are genuinely expecting to work with me one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
And also after that, and they're not really feeling properly attended to because I still had the same model of these are people who know and trust me. And suddenly you sold something to someone who doesn't know and trust you, and they've given you some money, and a week later they've not heard from you. Because in my mind, we're just doing the work, but in their mind, it's the natural gut feeling is, have I been scammed?
Yeah.
And that's what you really need to try and overcome. And we're still working on this to this day. But when I saw what the big London SEO agencies were doing when I was in corporate, it was all about these nice, friendly account managers who would get on the call with you all the time. And you try and ask them questions and they didn't know anything. So when I started, I said, we don't do account management. We just do the work. We're just going to do it really well for a good price. And then very quickly you realize why it is that all these agencies have got such a focus on account management. Because ideally your best customers don't have SEO knowledge. So it's all about building that trust. So the mistake a lot of us make, for some reason in the SEO industry, it's basically one of the biggest industries where competitors will sell to their competitors. So it's absolutely bizarre how many other SEOs will sell to SEOs, and it all becomes this weird self-reflecting cycle. And so big recommendation, don't do that. And this all comes down to qualification. And this has actually been a problem for me with YouTube, where people come to YouTube to self-educate. So I thought it was great. You get these clients coming on board who think I'm a rock star. But then literally a week or two later, you'll be getting emails saying, Matt Diggity said this, or Neil Patel said this. Why aren't we doing this? And it becomes a headache because you've got these clients
Yeah.
who, in theory, they're trusting you to get on and do the work. But instead you're being micromanaged because they've kind of got one foot in and one foot out. So you need to escape that, try and pre-qualify clients and make sure they're not budget sensitive. You basically want to work on the basis of KPIs. If you work for even a big SME or a corporate, it becomes less about that local plumber who said, I gave you $500 last month. Where's my $500 back this month? And instead, they're working much more on KPIs. It's like, okay, we're going to do this for 6 months because we have a budget and we're going to spend that on this for the next 6 months. It might even be an SEO budget where it just has to be spent on SEO because the higher powers say so. And as part of that, we expect this many links, this change in domain rating, or these kinds of ranking improvements. And they're not really obsessing over the detail in terms of, if I give you this money this month, then I need exactly this money back at
Right.
month 6. But as part of that, again, you need that nurturing process where, I argue it can't really be you. All these problems are solvable with hiring. So you can get a really good account manager who's preferably done this before and knows that when that client comes on board, you've had this whole high touch sales process where you're on calls all the time, and then they give you the $5,000. You don't then want to wait a week before they hear from you again. So you need this onboarding process where your account manager is literally treating them like a VIP, checking in with them and explaining them as a partner on every step on the process. Once you get through to month 3 to 6, you've got that trust, so you can calm down a little bit, but you really need to nail it in that first month. And it's very sink or swim. If they get through that first 3 months, then the chances are they're going to stay for a long time. But if you don't, then it can be really problematic. So in your sales process, it's literally a checklist. Is this basically, dare I say it, a serious business owner with budget? Or is it someone who really does expect miracles for a very low price? Is it their own personal money that they're spending, or is it just a budget? There's all these quick, literally go into ChatGPT and ask yourself the kinds of screening questions you should be asking to work out. Is this a high-ticket client trusting you to do your best? Or are you basically getting a micromanager who's expecting miracles from you and expecting what you do to be somehow 10 times better than what they can do themselves? So it's a really crucial distinction there. It all comes down to the people. And I generally focus on, big learning for me is salespeople. So you want a good salesperson to get them on board. Doesn't have to be expensive. And then a good account manager, which again is kind of a sales role. Because ultimately, if you put these people in place, then it saves you having to master all these different skills. So if you can sell upfront and get the cash flow coming in, then you can literally hire to solve all your problems rather than you having to go through the full growing learning curve.
A lot of what you said is really important if people are thinking about going into providing deliverables or services to clients, because I think, and I'll just double down on it, certainly what I've experienced as well running my SEO agency is you as a SEO person by nature, by trade. Like, I love getting into the weeds. I love SEO at its core. My clients don't love SEO. They're solving a problem. They don't want to really hear about SEO. They don't want to talk about SEO. They want the results that come from SEO. So if you wait until you have results, or wait a month to get back to them about something, like, they're not going to appreciate that. They want to talk about it. They want to make sure it's ascribing business value for them and all those sorts of things. So everything you walked through is really good for people to kind of listen to and think about if they want to get into providing it as a service. Man, we're coming up on time, but I want to ask about the SaaS. I want to ask about the SaaS you acquired. Tell us
Go
about the
ahead, yeah.
SaaS you acquired. I'll just, full disclosure, I'd love to acquire a SaaS. I've at times noodled around with acquiring a SaaS. I've looked into some SaaSes. I haven't ever pulled a trigger on it. What has that been like? Maybe talk us through from a high level the deal and then what you've done with it so far.
So obviously we've got the big vibe coding trend at the moment where everyone's saying anyone can build a SaaS and it's easy. But again, a bit like the SEO agency side, the SEO agency game, you're not in the SEO game, you're in the customer experience game. And with SaaS, you're really in the product market fit game rather than the coding game. So anyone can build a SaaS, but a lot of people are building SaaSes that should probably never be built in the first place. Whereas what I've really found with the buying approach is you can have a revenue generating SaaS that's got proven product market fit. So there's plenty of marketplaces out there. Now, in my case, I've got distribution. I've got Facebook ad funnels working really well. I've got YouTube. I've got my email list. I've got my stage talks. So I could quite easily 10x whatever SaaS I buy as long as it's solid. So rather than this whole long timeline of bug fixing and iterating, trying to get a product actually to market, there are loads of people already doing that who have done that, and now they don't have a route to market. And that tends to be the biggest bottleneck. Kind of like how we as SEOs generally aren't so good at the customer service and talking to people side. It's
Mhm.
the same thing with a lot of these really talented engineers and coders building great products and then finding they've got no way to actually market them or sell them. So it's basically a fire sale. I can go onto one of these platforms, buy a revenue generating SaaS, and some of them you look at the multiples, and basically churn is a real thing. But if you look at the current book of clients, you realize if I just held on to this for 9 months, I'd probably, and no one churned out, I'd make all my money back. Now, realistically, people are going to churn out, but still, that's a really good valuation. When I got really concerned about AI a year or two ago, I started hoarding cash thinking, I'm going to go into property and real estate. And then suddenly, yeah, the SaaS came up. In my case, the guy was getting divorced. It was a fire sale. He just wanted to get this project off his plate and get paid out for, he literally just wanted what he put into it. And now he'd made money on it over the last few years, but his actual sale price, he wasn't using that as a valuation. He'd used a lot of lifetime deals in the past. So technically it wasn't really worth anything. So he just wanted his investment back. And so I bought that, did a bit of promotion, and I actually made back 50% of my investment within 2 weeks.
Wow.
But so you compare that to real estate and you think, yeah, you look at rental yields. Now, of course, the house isn't going to diminish in value significantly in the next 50 years. But in terms of just cash flow and ROI, okay, I can buy a business, sell it, and get my money back within a month or two. Now, in my case, I went hard and then started buying loads more. And then you realize the 80/20 and how lucky I got with the first one.
The first one, yeah, yeah.
So the challenge I've really found is it's low ticket, which doesn't just mean less money. It's also in terms of the buyers you're getting. So it's an unfortunate thing, but it became very apparent that I thought it was hard enough dealing with done for you agency clients where they've given you 3 grand and they've got high expectations. But with SaaS, it's a whole nother game entirely where someone signed up for $20 and suddenly they're hounding the live chat like you owe them something, saying, I'm struggling with this. Can we get on a call? No, I am not getting on a call for $20 a month. And yeah, we all want to do well. We want to be good founders with good customer service. But you realize the sheer entitlement of some people when you're at that kind of price point. One of them, we had a free plan and I had someone on board, again, hounding the live chat. And he had some sort of problem with it. And he eventually said, this tool is terrible. I want a refund. I thought, okay, no problem. I'll go and process the refund. And I'm struggling to find his plan. And eventually I realized he's on the free plan. I thought, okay, well, I'm very sorry, but here's your refund of nothing, having given us nothing. And so SaaS can absolutely work, but it's a real can of worms, which everyone told me, and I kind of
Yep.
ignored. So it's all about retention. It's all about MRR. So whether you're buying, whether you're building, you need to make sure that tool is absolutely solid, because otherwise you're going to spend all your time on bug fixing and customer support. So even though it's high margin, you're thinking, great, I'm making 90% margin on that. If they're all churning out after 3 months, then yeah, if your average retention, your overall lifetime value is $150, I can literally sell a course for $500 quite easily. Whereas the SaaS model might seem like this nice recurring revenue model, but the reality, if there's no one sticking around, then it's not worth a lot at all. And the resale value really gets hammered as well. So you definitely need to be in it for the long term in terms of need to fix each one of these problems as they come up to really maximize that retention, maximize that lifetime value. And there's something else I was going to mention. I'm trying to remember it now. But yeah, very low ticket. So that does become the bottleneck, basically. Realistically, if every customer is only paying you $20 a month, that was it. I remember now. You need to make sure your SaaS is actually solving a consistent problem.
Yeah.
If it's some kind of niche finder, some sort of tool like that, then you'll find people will sign up for month one, use it,
And they're
and then
gone.
cancel. And it's just a terrible business model. Whereas,
Unsolvable churn.
yeah, whereas you look at some of these where it's really baked in terms of you build your business on this tool and you can't leave this tool. You look at something like HubSpot or one of these really big, B2B SaaSes that are just ingrained in some of these businesses where they can move, but the cost of actually moving to another platform is so great, they might as well just carry on. Whereas if you're thinking, great, I'm going to vibe code this SaaS for $30 a month, and it will go and find, I don't know, niches for you or keyword opportunities, something like that. Is someone realistically going to keep coming back every month reliant on this tool? So that was definitely a big learning.
Well, I'm glad you shared all that because I mean you're exactly right. Like there's a certain aura about a SaaS, and in terms of the multiples that oftentimes you'll see successful SaaS sell for, in terms of that MRR, in terms of the fact that, and it's an illusion, but the fact that once you build it, the fixed costs are so much different than that of a service-based business. So it's always good to hear both sides of it. I don't know if I'm TLDRing it too much, but it does sound like where you have found like some clear gains or some clear wins is when you're able to identify a SaaS that you can go in and do promotion on and quickly earn back what you paid for it. Because to your point, a lot of SaaS builders and owners aren't necessarily as strong at the promotion side of things, as strong at the business side of things.
Exactly. And one of the key learnings very early on actually was my number one priority was, is this tool absolutely solid? Now, I'm not a coder, but I can use AI tools very effectively. So I know that I could. And in the end, I did end up doing a lot of editing and improving using the AIs, and that worked out well. But the interesting thing I found there was I was going to the developer saying, is this absolutely solid? Are there any problems? And they say, no, it's all working great. It's working fine. And we've got all these clients, no problems at all. Customer service is only an hour or two a week. Didn't realize if you 10x the revenue, then you're 10xing all of those, including that small 5% problem that only a very small number of users actually encounter. Suddenly, if you 10x that, it becomes much more of a big problem. And that's something the original founder would have had no idea about because they weren't selling enough to actually surface those problems. So yeah, it's definitely been tough looking back. Some of them have been great wins. One or two of them have done really, really well. Generally, people are very happy. But yeah, others, it's that usual curve. You're open the box. You don't really, no matter how many questions you ask, you don't really know what's inside because you can do all the testing you like. There's still going to be things that happen or problems that come up and that, you were never expecting. And for a lot of people, that's not a big problem. But for me personally, I was seeing this as basically a side hustle diversification. So I've got agency, I've got courses, I've got a lot of these big projects on the go. And suddenly this little SaaS tool I bought that might only be doing $500 to $1,000 a month, there's one tiny thing that's gone wrong that's going to take you 10 hours to figure out what's wrong with it. Then it becomes a nightmare.
Yep. Whew, boy, we covered a lot of ground. Wow. This has been great, Stewart. Where can people follow along with what you're doing? We've talked about YouTube and stuff, but like direct people in a couple of different areas where they can keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, so we've talked about a lot of things today. I think primarily for your audience, one-page websites is probably the most comprehensive in terms of both ranking the site. It's a nice sort of SEO hack, SEO process that still works in 2025, but it does touch on this idea of let's actually grow this into an actual service business. So normally that's a course we launch a few times a year. It is now an ebook, and I think we'll clarify this in the show notes later, but if you use the code Niche Pursuits, I'll give you that ebook for free. That's normally paid. There's probably a couple of other ebooks I can give you. Yes, I'll give you the agency training ebook as well. And of course, that'll get you onto my email list. YouTube, SEO Jesus, I'm still posting there fairly regularly, about 3-4 times a week. Otherwise, SEOJesus.com.
Love it. Stewart, it's good to see you again. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. And I can't wait to maybe do another check-in down the road. We'll see which project of yours has outperformed the other ones.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, Spencer here, founder of Niche Pursuits. Are you adding a new internal link pointing to each article you publish? You should be. Ever find it time-consuming and a bit overwhelming? Remembering what content you published and deciding which anchor text to use can be a real headache. What if there was a better way? Well, that's exactly why I created Link Whisper. Simply click Add Inbound Internal Links, and Link Whisper will scan your site in seconds and suggest the most relevant links with appropriate anchor text for your new article. Now simply check the box next to the internal links you want to add, and Link Whisper will add these links for you. No need to go into each article, edit, and add the link. It's already done. No more manual internal link building or guesswork. Just efficient, accurate linking that saves you time and improves your SEO. Transform your content strategy with Link Whisper. Start linking smarter, not harder. Use the coupon code PODCAST for $15 off. Head over to linkwhisper.com and use coupon code PODCAST to get $15 off.